But the winner, Benji, the prophecy, the true one, it's half foretold, and he's now won the Vuelta, his second Grand Tour, his first proper preparation for one. Wins it comfortably, Evenepoel by 2:05. I mean, he can't have done anything more than this. This was as close to a flawless performance as possible, and I'm still putting the Pandera wobble down to the crash rather than some problem with, I don't know, his ability to climb mountains.
It's not even that big of a deal if it, for example, isn't related to the crash. The crash could have influenced it. It could have been the reason for it. If it isn't, well, he only lost a minute on his worst day on a Grand Tour. So I'd say that Remco Evenepoel should be really proud, and I think everybody around him should also be proud of his performance here, winning La Vuelta at the age of 22. That is the first time in 44 years for me as a Belgian that we've got a Grand Tour winner. So that is absolutely spectacular. Obviously, bar any crashes or anything happening in stage 21, but I don't want to think about that.
You might have heard yesterday, if you missed that pod, it was a banger. But we've mentioned the upcoming changes to Zwift, but Zwift have just announced a new smart trainer to the Zwift Hub on sale from the 3rd of October. You can pre-register if you're in the UK, Europe, or USA. Zwift are breaking down the barriers to indoor training by making this trainer cheaper and easier to set up than any other trainer on the market. If you compare it to other trainers of a similar spec, with a cassette install, which you can choose 8 to 12 speed and SRAM, Campagnolo, or Shimano. If you compare the spec, don't take my word for it. Go and see the independent review guys on YouTube. It's crazy, crazy price. And that's just breaking down the barriers. So they're rolling out on 3rd of October. To sign up for notifications for when Zwift Hub goes on sale, or to find out more about Zwift and the new smart trainer, head to Zwift.com or to Zwift's YouTube channel.
Now, the thing with Remco is, I've always felt like he's had immense pressure put upon him since he was in the juniors. Like, immediately he was labeled as the new Eddie Merckx back in the day. I don't care about those nicknames. He shouldn't have cared about them either, but the media put that on him big time back in the day. And I feel like when it comes to him as a person next to the bike, he's been polarizing a bit, as in some people hate him, some people love him. It's like a 50-50 thing. I hope that it leans towards people loving him more than hating him, because I'd argue he doesn't deserve most of the hate that he gets. I think he gets pulled out of context a lot in South. And every single time that someone says something that this man can't do, a year later he proves them wrong. He couldn't ride on steep hills. He couldn't ride on long climbs. He couldn't finish a Grand Tour 3 weeks without collapsing completely at some point. He's misproven every single myth that was thrown at him, except for Roubaix cobbles. That's one that I'm not certain about. Want to see it. But when it comes to his Grand Tour scenario here, he brought it out perfectly. And yeah, towards week 3, he was rather defensive, but that's what you need to do. You need to defend your red jersey. You don't need to overextend to make sure that people can't counter you as a consequence. And I think he did it perfectly. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, Roglic wasn't here and so forth. I personally don't think Roglic would have beaten Remco Evenepoel, regardless of finishing this Grand Tour. If Roglic doesn't crash, I don't see him beating Remco Evenepoel here. That's my personal take on it. Whether you like that or not, I don't know. Is that also your opinion?
No, I think peak Roglic and Kuss, decent chance they beat him.
Yeah, but
Sierra
it wasn't peak
Nevada.
Roglic either, you know?
I know, but these are all hypotheticals. Like the Roglic crashing out, I
Yeah.
think it would have made the 3rd week more exciting. But the Roglic, of course, Roglic on stage 4 won the stage with exceptional 3-minute, 2-minute power, destroyed Pedersen, and so. But then 2 days later, got 90 seconds put him to him on Pico Hano over 30 minutes. So him being good on stage 16 with a 2-3 minute power performance, and without the flat, maybe Evenepoel is with him anyway. Does that mean he's going to drop him and destroy him on Mulquera today? I don't know. I do think with Kuss and peak Roglic, with a proper preparation, without the injury from the Tour de France, I would have leaned towards them, to be honest, because Pandera, if you have Kuss pacing that, Pandera, Watts per kilo and Pandera weren't good, like compared to week 1. And if Pete Roglic is there with Koos lighting it up, we're talking big time there. And then the TT is better. So, but it's all, it doesn't matter. But I do think that, Roglic might have also crashed himself out, even if he was in peak shape.
We've seen that Remco Evenepoel win La Vuelta a España. Again, bar any crashes and punctures on stage 21. We don't want to talk about it. On paper, he's won La Vuelta. What are the next steps for Remco Evenepoel? Are the next plans that he goes to the Giro, to the Tour afterwards? I think that Patrick Lefevere, on an interview, a long read interview, said that the Tour de France would not be for 2023, that it would be for a 2024 thing, but that they will still talk about it at the end of the year and see if it's a possibility. They'll still talk about it. It's not like 100% done. Does that mean that he does the Giro next year and so forth? And I've got a simple take on it. You shouldn't decide now what Grand Tour you're going to ride. You should
Yeah,
wait
no.
until the parcours come out. If a parcours comes out for the Tour de France with not a single time trial kilometer, don't send him to the Tour. If it's 100-kilometer time trial kilometers, send them to the Tour. If it's balanced, then you can choose based on what you want when it comes to your pathway as a rider. If you want to build up the Vuelta, Giro, Tour, or stuff like that, only if it's like a balanced thing. I think the parcours matters a lot, and all these questions are irrelevant until the parcours comes out. What's your take?
I agree. It always shocks me. I mean, Benji, people were saying Rampas in Humanas about the Vuelta when it was 2 weeks before the race, and it's like every climb is
Yeah,
5%. Poor Enric Mas, diamonds in the legs. We'll get to him in a second, but he's dealing with 5% all day in the third week. But yeah, obviously the Tour de France is, I think, the tour he has to do. Next year. I didn't understand the Merlier signing. I thought, why would you sign Merlier when Remco? Like, I think, unfortunately,
hmm
I still don't know if Lefebvre knows how good Evenepoel is. Like, really understands how good the
okay,
Pico Hano performance was. Like, will he be brave enough to send a quick step squad without a sprinter to the tour with no
yeah,
Jakobsen? Or will he hedge his bets, send Alaphilippe, Evenepoel, Lampard, Jakobsen to Klerk, and send a 4-and-4 squad, which isn't a bad thing. The rouleurs can help Evenepoel in the tour too, but
yeah,
does Hirt miss out? Vivaika, so I'm not. I would be surprised even if Evenepoel does the tour, which say the Giro follows its trend of two time trial kilometers next year, and the tour has 60. I would send obviously Remco to the tour. He should go as their best rider. But I worry that they won't send a full GC team.
I think next to that, I want to add that when it comes to Remco Evenepoel in a Tour de France, for example, I don't think Remco's progression necessarily from here towards that Tour de France is as important as the progression of Quickstep as a team, like you mentioned, towards that Grand Tour. Because Quickstep in this Vuelta controlled nicely, but this Vuelta did not have teams of the caliber of a Tour de France Jumbo-Visma with Van Aert as super domestiques and so forth, a Sepp Kuss and so forth. That's not in this Vuelta, for example. So if you put this team against the Jumbo team of the Tour in the Tour de France, it's unlikely to me that Remco Evenepoel comes out on top because the team dynamic will be very important in that aspect. So I think it will be vital for that Tour de France in the future that Quickstep becomes stronger. And maybe there's some reasoning there in the mindset of a Patrick Lefevere that he thinks, I don't want to send him to the Tour yet because I think that at the Giro he has a better chance with the team that we have and we need another transfer season to get better climbers. Maybe that's the dynamic that he has in his head, the thought process behind the Tour being in 2024 in his head for Patrick. Like, that's how I see it. What's your take, other Patrick?
Yeah, I see it, and maybe don't want to expose him to too much pressure, but he's won the Vuelta now, and maybe there's
Yeah.
like less haters or doubters. Um, I get what you're saying in that maybe the transfer period was a bit soft for the people they needed for 2023, and now you win the Vuelta. Now I don't know whether this could happen. They can go to the sponsors and be like, "Hey, we need to get X rider who's out of contract in
Yeah.
2024, a luxury domestique. Um, would you be happy to pay for it or pay extra so Remco can go to the Tour in 24?" And you're right, in the Giro, this Quick Step team and with Jan Hirt coming over too is absolutely fine. It's quite a good team. So I don't know about Alaphilippe. You got to remember he crashed out. Alaphilippe was extremely good in this race. His shape was improving. Can Evenepoel win the Giro? Of course. The maybe wet descents or unfamiliar, dangerous descent, still a question mark I have if he gets uncomfortable. The
Yeah.
colder conditions, I think, suit him. 15, 20 degrees, I think, is much, much better for him than very hot. I still think that. And the Tour this year was just scorching hot. And Roglic and Vingegaard in extremely hot conditions are untouchable. So it's all. There's no need to make these big proclamations, as you said, Benji. See the parcours, see who's going to what, make a sensible decision about what suits best. That being said, Merlier and Jakobsen, that's two big sprinters. So I wonder if, like, they better not send him to the Giro with half a sprint train. Then I'll be like, what are you guys doing? But yeah, good for him. It's a big win, big for Belgium.